Good morning, everybody. It's a SIG Node subgroup for CI, and it's October 5th, 2020. Hello, everybody. We have a small agenda today, mostly follow-up action items from last week. First, I want to thank George for keep adding tests into critical, marking them with a mail list. So we will have more notification when something is not healthy. Specifically this pull request that you started, and looking at it, I see this container deconformance test are flaky. There are like one flaky test that we need to take a look. Something about resource management. So let's start receiving notifications and make sure that we react on them and fix tests. Anybody has something to say about it? Okay, so let's go forward. Jorge, you just edited. Amim, do you want to speak about documentation thing?
I think I just saw Amim on the call, but just wanted to bring this one up. This is a document that Amim mainly authored. It is basically taking a look at how I don't know what to call it. The node test suite is actually defined, how it works. I think it is in a good stage to get started, and I think this might be super useful if we want to take a look into cleaning up, solving some technical debt, and picking up some features for the node test suite. Other than that, I mean, do you want to say something else?
Mainly the documentation I have there is for local. I think we can improve this adding more remote information, but I didn't play too much with the remote yet. So the first step, we can start with the local. I don't know.
Yeah, I think at least what's in there, what's already in the doc, I think that's also. I think that's good. At least just to get started. For more details on the remote test runner, which is the thing that actually happens when we run these things on CI, we can iterate and follow up on a PR. But I think we should just get it out and get it up there for people to actually start seeing it and make it official. What y'all think?
Do you think we should open a PR for this path or wait more reviews? Because we opened this for reviews like 1 month ago, more or less. So.
Yeah, I looked at it and local looks good. I mean, I don't see any big concerns. Maybe some extra information on the workflow may be interesting. So I didn't know, for instance, whether you're supposed to remove pods or not supposed to remove pods when test complete. But I mean, it's maybe some too minute of a detail.
Yeah, and actually, that will be also a very good. Which I'll make an issue unless someone wants to beat me to it. But the thing that you just mentioned, that is technically managed by kubetest, and there is very little to no documentation on how kubetest interacts with the node test runner. So if anybody wants to tackle that, that will also be an amazing contribution. But yeah, other than that, I think there is a good list of to-do things, but at least as it is right now, it reads very well, and it has some nice diagrams.
Yeah, and to set our precedents where to put all the documentation, because one of the action items from last time was Morgan wanted to put information about the fact that you can specify test set in image config, and there is no place where you can, I mean, I didn't find any good place for that. So if you start doing that, maybe this will be a proper place to put this information. So what's happening in the chat? Okay. Morgan, you want to say about kubetest something? I see it in the chat.
No, just I'll have to read the documentation and yeah, make a PR if it looks good, and we have several different MD files in the SIG Node thing to add to. So I'm behind on everything I said I was going to do last week to everybody. So sorry.
You like everybody else. So yeah. Okay. So I mean, Jorge, I think next item is to submit a pull request, or you still want to finish up at least a couple more reviews? Like, what do you want to do?
So my opinion, I'll leave it up to Amin because I just added I just reviewed and added a minor things, but I think the document it's right now. I think the document is good by itself. You know, like everything we do, it could always be better, but I think it is ready for the beta release.
Okay, I will open the PR and we can discuss in the PR.
Yeah, I think the only reason to keep it in document is if we expect some feedback that will ask for complete rewrite of the document, like maybe some complete refactoring, but I don't see that happening. It's quite like sequence is quite nice.
Yeah, maybe opening DPR can lead to more discussions. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, everybody behind on what needs to happen, and Roy is not on the call for second one. I don't think there were any updates. I haven't seen them. Anyway. Oh, Roy, you're here. Hello, Roy?
Do you say Laurie?
I say Roy.
Yeah.
No. So yeah. So last time there was no reply from Docker team. We probably can just remove this this tab. Okay. Let's ping Roy on the issue. Next one. Yeah. So I think it was from Amin on GCI tab. And I think, Amin, you suggesting to move all the GCI tests into separate tab, which I think totally makes sense. Or are you trying to speak? Or?
Oh yeah. For that document, what we need to do? I saw we need to approve, or you are already at least ask around. Is like Google internal. I'm not sure who. Nobody. Yeah. Asking response. I think it's I also leave the comment because the test. First, the test is pretty old, right? It's already out of date. Secondly, done wrong for a long time. If no people respond, I think we should be able to remove it to clean up. Yeah, that's my yeah. Yeah, opinion on that.
Okay. Do you want to start and send a pull request to clean it up?
That is
I saw like the Morgan already has a pull request. We just need people approve, right?
Oh, this is a pull request. Okay. I thought it was just an issue. Okay. Makes sense. Cool. Okay, so we're making progress.
Yeah, I guess we need explicit approval from Don or Derek for this one.
Okay. Okay, Roy, any, okay, so issue on renaming. I mean, do you want to speak about it?
Yeah, there is some, this is the proposal to move every GCI job to a new tab. And the other task is something, yes, the net started to rename everything from COS, and I think this should be part of it.
Okay. So are we good on both? Can we proceed? I think both makes a lot of sense. I was so confused with GCI.
Yeah, this one, the new one, I find one ticket, and who finds the 19401? I think we can. Yeah, we need. Yeah, I suppose this. I can help, but this looks as a lot of place like the 1.5 bucket. There's more than 800 place. Yeah, we can make it simple. Yeah.
Are they all concentrated in the same folder, or it's more than just one folder?
More than just one folder.
I see.
Yeah, there's some risk, but I think overall it should be okay. Maybe we first do the renaming. It's just a surface change, right? Make the community aware of course, and the second we can do the second one is move in the same folder and even change some code because the code some place maybe break. What's that? Is in the Kubernetes part, the pattern is pass GCI. I think that mostly we can first add a course and also make GCI is there. First change the open source repo, right? In case it is break other, for example, some Google internal. Slowly, the Google internal also they will sync the code. Yeah.
Okay, so the proposal is to start doing it slowly. Is it correct?
Yeah, I think if we start to do it slow, it should be can be done. Yeah, within some time. Yeah.
Okay. So we still didn't have time. Like right now, it's a hot period because everybody tried to squeeze their caps into the 120 milestone. So we still didn't discuss this action item on SIG Node meeting. I don't expect we will do it tomorrow because it's like last day for caps. So, but we will try.
So on this issue, I added some more detail to the issue itself, which I will post. But basically, what I'm wondering is if in a nutshell, the node conformance tests are intended to be cloud agnostic, OS distribution agnostic, container runtime agnostic, yet they run in Docker, and they're expected to pass for every PR. And so I took a little further look into this, and it turns out that they do run for every PR, but they just don't run in Docker. So there might be some other differences between what's running. So I'm just wondering if rather than keep trying to bring this up in the meeting, if we should just propose what we want and then put up a PR and then have the discussion there rather than bring it up in the meeting. And so we could just make them look just like the ones that run with the PR, or use the PR configuration directly and make that change. Or I don't know if people have thoughts on that. But the main change, the main difference is that the ones in the PR don't run in Docker.
So you want to run it as intended in Docker, right?
Well, so I don't, if it's intended to be container runtime agnostic, I don't know what running in Docker buys you. Like, I don't know if, like, I haven't found any documentation as to why that's desired. It's just stated that that's what's happening. And it seems to me like the ones that run in the PR and the ones that run in our other dashboards should just be the same.
I mean, Docker's the original runtime, and a lot of people claim to use it. So
right, and so maybe that's good enough reason. I don't know.
Whatever it is, we should definitely document it somewhere. I think a lot of this work is going to be particularly tricky because it was designed and someone had a plan in mind, but they might move on to another area of Kubernetes or maybe off Kubernetes completely. So whatever we should definitely come up with a plan and just put it somewhere for future generations.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, we should move whatever needs to be kept from the Google Doc to actual documentation.
So my reading of like why Docker is that Docker may create environment independent tests because all the dependencies are inside the Docker itself, inside the containers itself. So maybe that was the reason why Docker, basically just saying like, let's containerize all the dependencies.
So does that mean that for the purposes of running in the PRs that those should be run in Docker as well?
Only if we're claiming that that's the desired state. I mean, I can understand that they probably use containerd explicitly now. I think that was a relatively recent diff that was made. So
I see. So basically, you're saying that in the PR it probably runs in containerd already.
well, it's got to run in something.
Yeah.
Right? So there's Docker, there's containerd, and there's like a bunch of other runtimes that I don't think we test at all. But here it's primarily Docker, containerd, maybe Creo in some places, but I doubt that's a standard thing. I think that's got its own buckets. I mean, yeah, if we're claiming it's independent, clearly we would want to run it in everything, but also it also doesn't it shouldn't matter what it runs in, right? So
well, and that's the intention of the conformance test, that it shouldn't matter, because we do have we do have tests for every container runtime that we support.
Yeah. So as long as you pick one and we check that they all give the same result every once in a while, I don't pick whichever one's fastest.
Yeah, I saw this node conformance test built into containers. There is a definition for containers somewhere. So, and there is a documentation on Kubernetes.io how to run conformance tests. So I was wondering, like, and the documentation basically saying like, take this container and run it. I was just wondering if it's the same here. So you want to containerize everything.
Yeah, and I saw documentation for like the node conformance where it talks about Docker. I haven't found a equivalent for non node conformance.
Yeah, that basically was the reason we wanted to bring it up on the meeting, to ask like, what was the final intent? Like, are we missing some history here, or it just legacy? Like, we stuck with Docker for some reason, and like we didn't really want to stuck with Docker. So I don't know how to proceed here. Like, what would be your suggestion?
Well, I guess it seems like either we make a choice and we do whatever to get to that state, or we hold off and bring it up, once we can get air at the SIG Node meeting.
This is a little bit tangential, but where will be a really good place to also maybe have this conversation? In the SIG architectures conformance meeting. Does anyone attend that? Or if we don't want to attend another meeting, we could just start the conversation with SIG architecture. SIG architecture is the one that owns the conformance subproject, which is in charge of just conformance for Kubernetes itself. It might be nice to get to see what node conformance will be on top of just plain conformance.
Do you know who are the key people there?
Aaron is a chair in there. it's all the SIG architecture leads actively participate on there.
Okay.
Actually, SIG architecture people are really responsive. If we just drop the question, someone is gonna come in there. Plus Aaron, Dims, and everyone. Essentially, the people who know everything about Kubernetes are really active in that channel.
Should we just ping with the issue on Slack then on SIG architecture?
Maybe the mailing list just to store it for future reference. But I think it might be good if we I don't know if we have an explicit answer for what is the difference between conformance and non-conformance, but it might be handy to get a SIG Node and SIG architecture to maybe have this conversation again if they already had it in the past.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I think we may want to have a some understanding what we want to do before we ask SIG architecture. So we may want to discuss it among ourselves first, or we can just ask straight in, like what's the history here and what's expected behavior. I don't feel like I have enough details and investigation to know what's the right approach here. Like, do we need more information, or are we fine to go and ask?
I think that's really why I'm suggesting it. I don't have any details, and to be honest, I never heard anyone actually talking about node conformance. I just see it. So I'm really just throwing ideas out there to see if there is anyone who will be able to provide more details.
Yeah, we could troll them to see if we can find information from them.
I mean, ultimately, SIG architecture, even though the kubelet can be a thing of its own, apart from the rest of Kubernetes, I will have to venture, I guess, a SIG architecture will have to have some knowledge or overview of what node conformance was.
Yeah, it's probably right
yeah.
to ask them. I think some of the people we understand probably know are probably away, and then we've got that document which has the sort of the creation of the tags. But I'm not sure if they'll have more. They might have knowledge in their brains that's not written down, which would be good to get. So,
and it might also be useful to figure out maybe also instead of trying to figure out what the layout was the last time that someone worked on node conformance, it might be good to take a step back and ask what exactly do we want to node conformance to be. So besides asking, like, does anyone know what this is supposed to be? Maybe it will also be good to chat with conformance and see what node conformance could provide additionally, given the current state of conformance testing for all of Kubernetes. Because I'm gauging that maybe a couple of years passed since the idea of node conformance came up, and maybe there are new things that we should be looking at in that field. But really, who knows?
Yeah, it sounds like there might be a good point here, because I do agree that just doing what was intended 2 years ago probably doesn't make sense. So if we can kind of, take that and see what if more recent conformance guidance suggests, then maybe we can figure out where this should be.
Figure out what it is and write it down.
It's
like everything else here.
So what do you all think in terms of actual implementation details? Do we make a draft for an email and we CC SIG architecture and SIG Node to ask all the questions that we are asking? Or does somebody have something else in mind?
Drafting is good. We can even draft it inside the issue itself.
Sweet.
Sounds good. Should I draft that?
If you can start on that, it would be great. And yeah, if anybody will have comments, we will follow up.
I will draft that today, and I will tag you guys on Slack when there's something to look at and you can give feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So yeah, on the last item, I think it's more and more prevalent that we want to do everything in community repository. So all the documentation will go there. So yeah, I don't have any updates. So okay then. Any other topics for today? Okay.
Sorry, actually,
Yeah.
one thing that it just came to mind and I forgot to add it to the meeting. This is a super vague question, but I'm gonna tell a brief story. So essentially, you know, the way that we develop things in Kubernetes, we write a KEP, we send it to the enhancements, we track it until the KEP becomes implemented, GA, and everyone is happy. And some KEPs have actually all the KEPs as of recently, they have a small section where you're supposed to, in some way, mention what test you created to actually make sure that your KEP is working as intended. And that exists from the other perspective. Usually, the people who check on this, who check on the KEPs other than the people who author it, are members of the Kubernetes release team. They check that all the sections are filled out. They check that everything is up to date, and the release team also constantly, as we have already seen, they have essentially a copy of a lot of E2E jobs. So whenever they break, they go through them and see what's working, what's not working. What's not based on what's not working, they figure out who to ping and the like. One thing that kind of that looked a little bit weird to me, and this is something that it is. I don't know if a lot of SIGs have some rules process or some way of figuring out how to do this, but there are no guidelines for. Let me rephrase that. There is no design. There is no plan, as far as I know, for what test we actually include in release blocking. For the most part, right now we are trying. We are doing a little bit of a catch-up game in which we have tests that exist. We are trying to maintain them, and if they are stable, we push it off. We put them in the bucket of release blocking. But for the most part, I don't think there is a list of test such and such should be part of release blocking. So there might be the possibility that we have a lot of tests that are really crucial, and we are not checking up on, and no one actually knows where. There are a lot of tests that I'm pretty sure that we don't know that they are supposed to be running. We don't know where they are running. So I just kind of wanted to throw that one out there. for people to think on and ponder, because I think there has to be some science or some art to what we actually run, instead of like randomly creating a test and saying this is gonna be in kubelet master.
That's just another way to define a release blocking test by looking at caps, right?
So yeah, something like that. It's like how essentially the big question that came to mind is, how do we know what we are supposed to be testing? The kubelet has hundreds of flags and things that you can configure. Most of them have to be related to some feature. How do we know which features we are actually testing and which ones are we are just assuming that they work in some kind of environment? Yeah, and as Morgan mentioned in the comment, we might need something like conformance, cap, blah 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 tag. Right now I don't have any particularly bright ideas. I really just wanted to propose this problem.
No, it's an excellent thing to notice, and the granularity of testing sort of leaves a lot to be desired, and we're sort of in this halfway state where that existing Google document that isn't sort of committed to, it's sort of official but not committed to. We're sort of in a halfway state where you can understand what is, like, the question, what's going to run what do I mean when I say conformance is, well, it's whatever happens to run when you specify focus and skip XYZ. And so, yeah, I want to avoid a bunch of churn while we figure out what things should be tagged, but the quick, yeah, if we're going to say a cap has to have a test, well, then tie the test to the cap with the specific, this test exists for this specific cap. Great, that makes a lot of sense to me, at least, but it's a good thought. It's a good thing to think about. So thank you.
Yeah, interesting thing here. When we promoted startup probes to GA in this release, we removed feature node from a test themselves. So tests are not marked as a feature called startup probe. They're just a regular test. They have startup probe in a description of the test, but they don't have this tag saying that the feature. I was kind of questioning this in my head, but I see that other features are doing this the same way. So do you think we need to preserve those feature flags and try to split all the tests into features?
I think this might be like node conformance. Maybe someone had a basic idea of what it was supposed to be for, but it was not properly communicated and it was lost in time. So maybe no feature, we can use it as Morgan mentioned, conformance, cap, blah blah blah. Maybe, and then back in the cap we can mention that this tag exists and everything with this, and this tag is supposed to have X number of tests, and X number of tests are supposed to be for blah blah blah. I have no I don't know how useful that is. I don't know if that will be the perfect solution to this. But I guess the thing that's really becoming obvious is that we should definitely question every single thing that we see in the test.
Yeah, I also wonder, has anyone actually added node conformance tag to tests recently, and do people actually understand when to add it? I think it's similar issue there. And also, do we have any documentation that even covers some of this stuff as to when something should be release blocking or when it shouldn't, or all these other situations?
I think at least the answer to that the last thing that you mentioned is no. as far as I know, nowhere in the whole Kubernetes organization is there any documentation of what should be release blocking, because I think specifically that's been left off. I mean, it's kind of a hard thing to create guidelines for. The only places where release blocking is actually mentioned is by the release team, where they want to just they just want to know if Kubernetes is working or not. But how to figure out whether Kubernetes is working or not, it is better left to the SIGs, because, for example, no one is going to know more about the kubelet than SIG Node. So it's like, what features do we think that should be release blocking? That should be documentation. What kubelet features or something that SIG Node maintains should be release blocking. It is something that it is for us to decide, and I don't think there is any. I don't think there are any guidelines of the sort. I feel like I just brought a very pessimistic issue to discussion.
I don't think it's pessimistic. I think it's very valuable. I mean, every meeting we discussing how hard it is to understand what's going on and like what tests are actually testing and whether they supposed to run in like one environment or another environment. So having some special tags that will at least refer back to documentation is definitely helpful. So when you look at tests, you at least can go back and check like what is KEP meant to do. So this is great. I think you just need to understand what's the right way to do that, and can we like, yeah, we just need to set up a structure. And more we discuss and more we learn about Kubernetes, better more we learn about tests, better we can define it. I really like this angle with caps. I haven't thought about it.
Well, even if it's hard, like some of this stuff, I do think is probably, as Jorge was saying, is hard to define. And I guess if it's hard to define or contentious to define, then maybe just kind of calling out what the processes or steps are to kind of determine if or what conversations to have or whatever to basically figure out what should be categorized.
This might also be. This might also need some research in case anyone was looking for an excuse to read KEPs. It might be interesting to take a brief look at recent KEPs that have been produced by SIG Node and see if anywhere in the KEP it is mentioned anything that could potentially help answer the questions that we just brought up. If not, then at least some place for improvement. It might be to actually try to create some guideline. For try to answer this question. Then think about this when writing your KEP. Try to provide some help for authors of features.
I've been meaning to read into some KEPs, so I can take a look at least what's been done recently.
Will anybody else be interested? I mean, I'm also volunteering to check in on this with KEPs. So, I guess if we have a lot of people that are interested, we could divide and conquer. Sorry for interrupting. Just wanted to finish that thought.
Yeah, happy to read through some. And I don't know about splitting them up or reading them together or whatever, but yeah.
Are you want to read for proposed KEPs or mostly for completed KEPs?
I think we need to focus on completed KEPs for now, and as they come up, maybe we can suggest. Well, people are going to do the work separate from separate from us and separate from the KEP itself. So it's hard to maybe follow along with the existing ones. But I think in terms of completed KEPs, it would be good to focus on those, especially because you can ask, okay, the KEP claims to be implemented. It claims to have tests. How do we verify the veracity of these claims? And if I want to do this in an efficient way that's not, I already know the answer to what the test is named, what would be an easier way to run these tests and say, yes, it works over here, it works over there. And so that's a good way to inject maybe our proposal of KEP tests should be named, or at least have a tag of the KEP they're implementing, especially if we're saying it's conformant or something. And I'm getting an unstable internet message, so I hope some of that came through.
All of that came through for me, and
yeah.
+1.
Yeah, the structure needs to have the ability to add the old KEPs as well. So I don't know if we're going to refactor all the old KEPs to add this new section. I need to think like, how can you keep the track of the old and already existing ones?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. We should. If we're going to propose that, you know, X should be named this way, we should do the work to do that. But I lost my train of thought. I don't know. Sorry.
Okay, it's a way. I was struggling with like, how do we know? Like, I mean, as this group, we increase amount of stable tests, and this is great. We also define tests are critical from existing. Very good goal. I was thinking how we can improve test coverage, and we cannot do code coverage very well on the end-to-end test. So maybe we can do some feature coverage, and KEP approach is very, very interesting. I really like it. So yeah, if there will be any development here, it will be really helpful for everybody, I think.
Oh, I remember what I wanted to say. I think a lot of the, again, we're in sort of a halfway point with all the tags and such that I think the tags that exist, you know, if we look at the document, it's a couple of years old. So I think all of the tags and our concept of tags sort of, I know KEPs are, they sort of predate the existence of you know, most KEPs. So this is sort of definitely an update to be current with the current existence, kind of work to do. It's not a thing that existed because it didn't exist before, right? It's sort of self-defining. So.
Okay, so we have some actionable item here. Any other topics for today? If not, then we can start our week and finish this meeting. So thank you for attending and have a good week. Bye-bye.
Hope everyone had a nice Monday. See ya.
Happy Monday.